Yeah, I'll say it. I liked Volume 2 of Stranger Things Season 5, and quite frankly, I am shocked by the general reaction I have seen online. I acknowledge that even though I enjoyed Volume 2, it does have some issues. However, it feels like the online response is blowing some of these things way out of proportion.
Everything's ruined, it's all ruined!
People are genuinely comparing it to Game of Thrones Season 8, which is absolutely ridiculous to me.
You have to be kidding, that is ridiculous.
Where Game of Thrones Season 8 committed character assassinations on a scale we have never seen before or since, Volume 2 had some really strong moments that further developed the characters and their relationships, remaining true to the show's themes and values that have been present since the very first season. I also found it crazy how people have started review bombing Episode 7. According to the IMDb ratings and the opinions of some people, The Lost Sister is a better episode than The Bridge, which is something I completely disagree with. There also seems to be a prevailing sentiment that nothing actually happened in Volume 2, and I once again find myself disagreeing, as not only did we see some big moments of payoff for the characters' journeys, but we also had huge reveals concerning the Upside Down, Dr. K, and Vecna's ultimate plan. I agree that this volume and Season 5 as a whole have some issues, but I feel like the reaction is completely overblown. I think sometimes a show can simply be good but flawed, and that's okay. In this video, I will be talking about Stranger Things Season 5 Volume 2, and what I think worked and didn't work. I will be talking about the season in depth, so I will be going into full spoilers.
If it fails, we both go down.
You die, I die.
You die, I die.
The Steve and Dustin dynamic has been one of the most compelling in the show since they were first paired together in Season 2. Over the course of the series, they have grown incredibly close, giving us one of the most wholesome friendships in the show. However, there was some tension between the two introduced at the start of Season 5, which some audience members found to be off-putting. They want to see one of their favorite relationships turn so toxic, as both Steve and Dustin were frustrated with one another and struggled to communicate. After seeing where their story goes in Volume 2, I can say that the rough patch that the duo went through only strengthens their dynamic and gave us some of the best moments in Season 5. It was so worth it to take their friendship in this direction, as we got such a great emotional payoff to their journey this season. All of the tension that was present throughout the early parts of Season 5 boils over in Volume 2, when the two confront each other. After being constantly ridiculed and badmouthed by Dustin, Steve finally has had enough and fully calls Dustin out on his erratic behavior.
My character's struggle for the season is feeling like his friend is kind of closed off and shut off and maybe acting rashly out of like a emotionally insecure place.
He talks about how Dustin's reckless decisions have put people in danger, as well as Dustin's inability to own up to his mistakes. We get to the heart of the issue when Steve starts talking about Eddie's death.
That's what this has all been about, really, is Eddie. All your bullshit pushing everyone away.
Much of Dustin's behavior this season can be traced back to Eddie's death and how he is grieving his friend. Instead of dancing around it any longer, Steve calls it out into the open, talking about how Eddie died for nothing.
What did Eddie do? He charged into a swarm of killer bats.
To save my life.
He saved no one.
He saved everyone.
Eddie wanted to play hero, and he made a dumb call, and he got himself killed.
I honestly think Steve makes some great points, as one of my issues in Season 4 was how Eddie's death felt like it didn't need to happen. His decision to charge headfirst into a mob of demobats feeling unnecessary, as he could have continued to distract them by running away. I appreciate Steve calling this out, and shining a light on the fact that Eddie really didn't need to die, and that his final stand was ultimately motivated by his desire to no longer feel like a coward. I think Steve also feels some guilt about Eddie's death. He told them not to be heroes and get themselves killed, but in the end, Steve was unable to prevent Eddie's demise.
That night, I told you not to be heroes. I told both of you.
I think he hits the nail on the head when he says that some of Dustin's grief is caused by the fact that a part of him agrees with Steve that Eddie didn't have to die. When Eddie goes rogue, Dustin is shocked and tries to stop him. However, where he was unable to save his friend, I am sure a part of Dustin is mad at Eddie for making the decision that he did, feeling almost like Eddie abandoned him. However, for Dustin, it's easier to direct his anger at Steve than it is for Eddie, who he is still grieving. I think this conversation actually enhances Eddie's death from the previous season. Dustin isn't ready to admit these feelings, and so instead, he does what he has been doing all season. Looking for a fight and acting on pure emotion, he attacks Steve. This fight is great, because you can tell Dustin is going all out, whereas Steve is mostly trying to restrain Dustin rather than actually fight him. Dustin's decision to fight Steve also results in the antenna of their walkie-talkie breaking, preventing them from communicating with Jonathan and Nancy later on, when the circumstances become dire. Another result of Dustin's behavior having adverse impacts on the group. The performances in the scene are great, as you can see all of the frustration and emotions that have been building up finally come to the surface.
I'm done.
You dumb, fake asshole.
This is also where we get a massive reveal about the Upside Down, as Dustin stumbles into Brenner's secret room. It turns out that Dustin's theory about the wall and the shield generator were wrong, and that the Upside Down is actually a wormhole, acting as a bridge between two worlds, the right side up and the abyss. This is a huge reveal that recontextualizes our understanding of the world.
Everything we have ever assumed about the Upside Down has been dead wrong.
Upon this realization, Dustin knows he screwed up and tries to warn Jonathan and Nancy, but he can't. He's trying to figure things out when Steve, fearing their friends are in danger, springs into action. As he has done for the entire series, Steve doesn't hesitate to put himself in harm's way to try and rescue Nancy and Jonathan. As the steps are melting, the lab becoming more unstable the higher they go, Steve is relentless in his attempt to find them. That is, until Dustin finally breaks down, grabbing onto Steve for dear life as he opens up about everything he has been going through, the pain of losing Eddie, the fear of losing Steve, and having to go through that experience again. He admits that he has been wrong and begs Steve not to go, not to die.
Kind of a needed moment between the two of them where they can actually like verbally express to each other what they've wanted to say for a long time, and I think it's cool to like let those boundaries break down.
This is such a powerful moment, and I think Gaten Matarazzo absolutely nails it.
You're always trying to get yourself killed, and I can't let it happen again. Please don't let it happen again. Not you. I'm sorry.
Also, knowing how often Steve voluntarily puts himself in harm's way to try and protect others makes you think about how, in a lot of the situations, Dustin must have been terrified at the thought of losing his friend. Steve is such an important figure in Dustin's life, acting as a mentor, a best friend, and a father figure all in one. Seeing Dustin break down at the thought of losing him is so powerful, and in the moment, the only thing Steve can do is try and comfort his friend. The reconciliation is further cemented after they have escaped the Upside Down and are making their final plan to defeat Vecna once and for all. I like how it is Steve who is the one who has the brain blast and is the mind behind the final plan. It feels like an earned moment for his character and helps to showcase how different members of the group have different ways of thinking and tackling problems. It's also nice to see Dustin compliment Steve's intelligence in his plan after spending most of season 5 calling him an idiot, showing any animosity that was between the two is now gone. I know there have been a lot of complaints about how formulaic some of the planning scenes can be, but I enjoy them for what they are, even if they are at times a bit repetitive. Even though I think he made some valid points, and it was something Dustin needed to hear, Steve apologizes about the things he said concerning Eddie. In the end, all of the frustration on Steve's side of things was because he wanted to help his friend, but didn't know how. I really appreciate how understated this scene is, as I feel like that lends it some authenticity, as Steve and Dustin acknowledge that they only ever wanted the best for each other and that they've missed each other.
I miss my best friend.
Yeah, I miss my best friend too.
I think calling back to the "if you die, I die" line from season 3 was perfect, as it helps to highlight their journey together as well as how much they mean to each other. Without a doubt, the Steve Dustin storyline was my favorite in Volume 2, as it gave us an immense payoff that further developed one of the best relationships in the show.
Do you accept my proposal?
I accept your proposal.
It turns out, if you want to have an emotional breakthrough with a loved one, you go to Hawkins' lab in the Upside Down, as similarly to how Steve and Dustin's issues come to a head, so too does Jonathan and Nancy's relationship troubles.
Damn. Got real up in that
Lab.
I know, right? right?
The love triangle was one of the most maligned subplots of Volume 1, but I reserved judgment on it until we got to see where it was ultimately building towards. And I am happy I did, as I ended up really liking how it ends up getting resolved. The lead up to their big scene helps to set the tone, as they make their way through the uninhabited lab. When splitting up into teams to search for clues, Fred wants to go with Daphne, and for Shaggy to go with Scooby. However, that only irritates Shaggy.
I think we better split up. Daphne and I'll go this way. You two go that way.
No way, Jose!
And they revert back to their usual groups. This leads to Jonathan trying to bring up their relationship troubles as the two wander the dark halls.
I just want you to stop running away from me. Start being honest with me.
It's pretty eerie as they come across a melted section of the building, with soldiers half stuck in the walls. When they get to the top of the melted stairs and find what they believe to be a shield generator protecting the wall, Nancy does what she does best and shoots it.
I started blasting. Bang!
However, as it turns out, Dustin's theory was wrong, and the result of Nancy's sharp shooting is the exotic matter pulsing, sending a shockwave across the Upside Down. The visuals of the scene are great, with the shockwave causing a rift in the wall and leading to Steve's beautiful beamer to be sucked out into the void. This puts Jonathan and Nancy into a horrifying situation, as the exotic matter being destabilized causes parts of the building to liquefy, trapping the two in a room they can't escape. As more and more goo comes pouring in, their situation feels utterly hopeless, and after doing all they can to try and escape, they come to the conclusion that there's no way out. Feeling like this could be the end, they finally open up to one another, confessing all of the things in their relationship that they didn't like. Some of the confessions are wild, like Nancy not liking The Clash, who have a catalog of certified bangers, and Jonathan admitting to throwing out one of Nancy's sweaters because he didn't like the color. Honestly, who does something like that? But as the confessions keep coming, it's like a weight has been lifted off of them, allowing them to finally be honest with one another. Where their relationship started because of shared trauma, eventually they found the same thing that initially bonded them almost felt like it was forcing them together, even when they had begun to grow apart.
This thing that ties us together forever.
It can be suffocating.
Yeah.
When Steve is brought up, Nancy tells us what we already knew, which is that Jonathan and Nancy's issues were never about Steve.
It was never like that with him. We're just different people.
Even though they still have love for each other, Nancy and Steve would have never worked out, as they want different things in life, with Steve wanting 6 kids and Nancy wanting to focus on her career. Like Steve's been trying to tell us the whole season, they are just friends. I think this also highlights how a lot of the macho broing out for Nancy's attention was Jonathan projecting his own insecurities about his relationship with Nancy onto Steve. I think the scene gets better as Jonathan unproposes to Nancy. With everything they have confessed to, they show their maturity as Jonathan and Nancy both realize they aren't happy together like they once were, and that they have drifted apart. Jonathan proposing to Nancy was only ever going to be a band-aid solution that would have never truly worked out in the long term.
I tried to convince myself that this would somehow fix everything, but it was just gonna make things worse.
By Jonathan acknowledging this, it shows massive development for his character, as he is no longer doing things because he is scared and insecure, but rather because he realizes that this is what is best for both of them. I feel like this was a really good way of subverting expectations, as the story the show has been telling us since season 4 was that these two were going to break up. I thought the scene was really compelling, as it is such a huge moment for their characters, showcasing their love for each other even if they aren't right for each other. My one issue with the scene is that after their big emotional moment, the actual issue of being trapped in the goo room is resolved in a pretty underwhelming way. Instead of them figuring their own way out or being rescued by Steve and Dustin, the goo just solidifies. This felt a little too convenient. However, the scene with the two opening up to each other is incredibly compelling, and for me personally, it isn't hurt too much by them escaping.
You just need something that connects you to the real world. to home.
I really liked seeing Max and Holly work together to try and escape Vecna's mind. Their growing dynamic reminded me of earlier seasons where Steve was babysitting the younger kids, doing his best to wrangle them as they got into all sorts of trouble. It's fun seeing Max in the babysitter role as a counterpoint to when she was being babysat, and was stealing cars and getting into all kinds of mischief. Now that the shoe is on the other foot, she gets to experience what she and the others put Steve through, when they constantly insisted on putting themselves into harm's way. I especially liked how the show called back to when Mike went rogue instead of staying on the bench like Steve wanted, with Holly doing something similar to Max, despite her protests.
We're staying here and we wait for 11, end of story.
You coming? Or are you gonna let a child head into the desert unsupervised?
You don't remind me of your brother! You are your brother!
I like how protective Max becomes of Holly, like when she enters the cave before her.
Just stay behind me, okay?
But you said
I know what I said.
Or when after she has returned to her body, she is racked with worry as they don't know Holly's fate. There were some really cool moments as they hopped from memory to memory in their attempt to escape. Henry revealing himself as Vecna and attacking Max is a particular highlight, especially when he is mind-jacked by Will and has his leg broken. The cave scene is another standout, as we see little Boy Scout Henry murder a guy with a rock. The audience is left with so many questions as we wonder what's in the suitcase.
God damn it, what is it?
One of the most controversial scenes of Volume 2 was when, after once again finding an exit, Max has an extended conversation with Holly instead of immediately booking it for the gateway. I understand why this moment frustrates people, but I also think that her conversation with Holly is necessary for Holly's arc. On a meta level, where Max already missed the doorway once, I knew that they wouldn't pull the rug out from her a second time. However, in universe, I acknowledge that Max should be scared about the same thing happening again. I actually think Max's heart-to-heart with Holly is really great, as Holly was full of self-doubt and guilt over not doing enough to help people. She talks about standing by and watching as her mom was attacked, and again when Vecna was choking Max. She thinks she is a coward and can't do anything right.
No matter what I do, I'm still me. There's nothing heroic about that.
Max can actually relate to some of Holly's feelings, but she is also able to see what Holly can't, and that is that everything that Holly has done since entering Camazotz has been extremely brave. Max building her up and highlighting Holly's connections to her loved ones, she is able to get Holly to believe in herself and see herself for all the good things that she has done. She shows her that Holly the heroic is real.
You found a way through Camazotz. You saved me, Holly Wheeler.
Which allows Holly to open up her own gateway to her body. I think this moment is really important for Holly's personal growth, and I actually really like this scene. There are even some funny moments, like Holly talking about not having a boyfriend or Kate Bush to help her.
I don't have Kate Bush. I don't even know who Kate Bush is.
I know a lot of people probably couldn't focus on what was being said because they were too busy yelling at Max to run.
Max, you need to run!
But I actually really appreciate this moment in its inclusion.
Lucas, it's Robin. A demo is headed your way. Do you hear me? A demo is headed your way. You need to get Max out of there now.
The hospital chase sequence was one of the big action set pieces of Volume 2, and I think it really delivered. I think the setup for the scene was really good, with Max pissing off Vecna and hiding in her cave where he can't get her, forcing him to take an alternative approach to forcing her and Holly out. Having Vecna invade Will's mind and once again using him as a spy was a great moment, as we really get to see the horror in Will's eyes as he is powerless to stop Vecna. When Lucas heard about Max being trapped in Vecna's mindscape and how she was trying to escape, his hope that she will come back to him is fully reignited. It validates all of the time he has spent visiting her in the hospital and playing her song, as him being there has helped get through to her and let her know that she is still loved. As he and Robin head to the hospital, he is determined that today will be the day that Max wakes up, and he is willing to do almost anything to make that happen. I also like how the hospital scene allows us to flesh out Robin and Vicky's relationship. Robin comes clean to Vicky about everything, and even though she doesn't initially believe her, she soon finds herself convinced. As for her, seeing is believing, and seeing a monster from an alternate dimension eat two soldiers is something you can't unsee. The Demodogs ripping around the hospital is a great visual, and I liked how when Robin is trying to warn Lucas that the Demodogs are coming after Max, she announces it on the the PA system, which in turn also alerts Mrs. Wheeler. I loved seeing Lucas's desperation as he runs through the halls, literally carrying Max's unconscious body, playing Kate Bush, hoping that he can buy enough time for her to wake up. It's heartbreaking when they are hiding and Robin asks him to turn off the music so they don't get found by the Demodogs, only for him to refuse, as for him, it feels like if he were to do that, he would be killing Max himself.
You have to turn it off. Max is coming back.
I know a lot of people also really didn't like how the Demodogs aren't alerted by the music, but then end up being completely distracted by the washing machine. The way I interpreted it is because the music is a constant noise, it doesn't get as much of an instant reaction, even though the Demodogs are checking it out. Whereas the oxygen tank in the washing machine is a new, sudden, loud noise, which demands their immediate attention in a way the constant drone of the music doesn't. In this moment, they are living up to the dog part of their name and are easily distracted, but for me it works, even though I understand if not everyone has a similar interpretation as I do. I also appreciate how it gives Karen another cool moment. The best part of this entire sequence for me is when Max finally wakes up, with the same Moby song playing from when she was dying in the season 4 finale. I think by using the same song, it really connects the two moments, but this time the result is much happier. Sadie Sink and Caleb McLaughlin are phenomenal in this scene, really nailing how relieved these characters are to see each other again, and how much they love each other. The moment felt like a long time coming, and it absolutely delivers. I also liked some of the small moments in this scene and Max's exchange with Mike, highlighting the fun dynamic that their relationship has.
Took your sweet time, didn't you?
Screw you, Wheeler.
Overall, I really enjoyed the hospital sequence and think Lucas and Max's reunion was really well executed.
This isn't like one of your campaigns. You don't get to write the ending.
I know a lot of people didn't like how Kali was reintegrated into the story, but I thought it worked well. We get to see how she ended up as Dr. K's prisoner, her entire crew being murdered when she was captured. Kali was then locked away for a long time as she was drained of her blood, which she later learned was being given to pregnant women, to try and do the same thing that Brenner was trying to do, and recreate Henry and his powers. The scene of Kali running through the rooms of pregnant women was genuinely creepy, as we know that Kay was experimenting on them to try and reproduce superpowered babies. Kay wants to be the mama to Brenner's papa. After seeing all of this, Kali no longer believes that there is a future for her and Eleven, as someone will always try to control them and use them for their own means. There's also no escaping it, as if Kay dies, she will simply be replaced by another, just like how she replaced Brenner. If they were to try and run away, they may be free for a time, but eventually they will be found, and their loved ones will be killed. Just look at how Kali's crew ended up.
If you flee with Mike, maybe you're safe for a while. But when they find you, and they will kill Mike. And then they will take you, and with your blood, they will create more children who will suffer as we have.
As a result, Kali thinks the only way to truly end things is for her and Eleven to die alongside Henry, ending the cycle once and for all. Even though I don't agree with Kali trying to guilt Eleven into a suicide pact, I feel like it makes logical sense for her character and throws an interesting wrench into things. She is committed to defeating Henry, but beyond that, Kali's goals differ greatly from the rest of the group, which creates some tension between them and I think can lead to something really interesting.
That Kali makes one false move, I swear to God, I'm gonna kill her. I'm gonna kill her. I will not hesitate.
I like how Kali's perspective is countered with that of Mike. Mike is imagining a life for him and Eleven once everything is over. They might have to take out Kay and her goons or be on the run from the military, but he thinks that they will be able to live a happy life together. I really appreciate his optimism as he tries to convince Eleven that there are greener pastures waiting for them when this is all over. I think as a result of Kali and Mike's differing viewpoints, they are effectively playing tug of war over Eleven, trying to convince her of their vision of the future. I think it leaves Eleven with a really interesting decision for the finale, giving her an internal conflict as she decides what future she believes to be most likely.
You have 11 sort of caught between these two worldviews, and we really wanted that to be the big question of what is she going to do? And what does life look like after this if they are able to defeat this evil?
I found this subplot really compelling, and I think it adds another layer to unravel in the finale.
I don't like girls.
After his climactic moment at the end of Volume 1, Will still gets a lot of focus in Volume 2. In the immediate aftermath, Mike, Lucas, Robin, and Joyce are all elated with Will's newfound abilities, seeing them as a tool to help them defeat Vecna and rescue Holly. For Joyce in particular, it allows her to see Will in a new light, to view him not as a helpless victim that is in need of constant protection, but as someone who is strong and capable in his own right.
Vecna chose you because he underestimated you. I think we all have. I know I did. That is a mistake I will never, ever make again.
I also like how proactive Will and the gang are, as they waste no time in trying to use Will's new powers to attack Vecna. The plan to reanimate a dead demo so Will can jack back into the hive mind is such a cool idea, and gives us the great moment of him taking over Vecna's body to save Max. Will warning Max and Holly to run felt like a callback to Season 1, when he is able to communicate through unusual means to tell Joyce to run. It also feels like a nice reversal, as Will invades Vecna's mind, which is something Vecna has done to so many others. Will's coming out was one of the most anticipated moments of the season, as it had a lot of build-up over the course of the series. While I think a lot of aspects of Will's coming out are well done, I think there are a few decisions that undercut its emotional impact. Many people feel like the timing of Will's coming out doesn't make sense, as the characters have much bigger things to worry about than Will's sexuality.
The world is ending.
However, I actually think the show does a good job in justifying why Will decides to come out when he does. After Vecna invades his mind, Will is shown a reality where his friends and family don't accept him for who he is, instead rejecting him and even hating him. As a closeted gay kid in the 80s, this is a very legitimate fear for Will, and Vecna is using it to try and weaken him.
Today, Vecna showed me what would happen if I did this, if I told you guys the truth.
Will talks about how he used good memories to tap into his powers, and how when he was trying to fight off Vecna, his worst fears and most unhappy moments were used against him. By coming out before the battle, Will effectively lessens Vecna's ability to get in his head and overpower his good memories with his fears, as he now knows them to be nothing but another one of Vecna's tricks. So even though at first I might feel like Will's coming out is out of place, there's actually a plot reason for the timing of it. In terms of the actual scene, I think it's really well done, with Noah Schnapp giving a good performance and the writing feeling authentic to the character and his struggles. You can tell that the scene meant a lot to the actor and the writers as they tried to get it right.
You want it to be so perfect to make sure it's good for them and so empowering, and this is going to live on for so long.
However, this leads me to my biggest issue with the scene, and the reason I feel like it doesn't work as well as it could have. I really think over half of the people in this scene don't need to be there, and so their presence here undermines the scene as a whole. Like, does Kali care whether or not this kid she just met is gay? I doubt it. When the scene started with just Joyce and Will, with Mike walking in late, I thought that was all there really needed to be. I wouldn't even mind extending it to Jonathan, Dustin, Lucas, Max, and Eleven, but where it's literally everybody, I feel like it robs the moment of some of its impact. One of the things I liked so much about Robin's coming out scene is how intimate and personal it felt for her and Steve, and how it further developed their relationship. Unfortunately, because there were so many people there, I don't think the same thing happens for Will. It doesn't really feel like his relationships are stronger, even though they should be. It's too bad, because I know this scene was important to a lot of people, but its execution feels like one of the major sticking points that people have in Volume 2, for various reasons. I definitely don't think it's as bad as everyone is saying, but I do think some of the decisions surrounding it weaken its impact.
Day all this started. The day it ends.
I know people have really strong opinions on Volume 2, and even though I enjoyed it, I feel like I highlighted some of my issues with it. However, I think the good aspects I talked about outweigh the negative parts of these episodes, and as a whole, I think Volume 2 gave us some good episodes of television. I don't think Stranger Things is going to suffer the same fate as Game of Thrones, and I am still confident that the Brothers Duff will give us a great finale. It will be interesting to see the reception of Volumes 1 and 2 once the finale is released. released, as I could see people appreciating them more in retrospect, or conversely, being further entrenched in their position that Season 5 is a failure. Stranger Things is at its best when it's being true to its characters, so as long as it continues to do this, I think I will end up enjoying the finale. If you somehow made it to the end of the video, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I would really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. It really helps out the channel. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.